All right, here we go.
Okay.
And we're back. Miss Lori is going to be sharing with us, Lori Newton is going to be sharing with us information about ParentVue. Lori, let me hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lori Newton, and I'm an instructional technology facilitator with the district. My main job is that I help teachers with their synergy, with their grade books and their teacher view. And so I'm here to share a little bit with you about ParentVue and the features that you have in ParentVue. So I know I have all different levels here, that you have all different levels of students. So I'm going to try to share a little bit with each level. Just for my elementary parents, know that we're not in Otis anymore. So all of your grades, all of your information will be in your ParentVue this year instead of having to go over to Otis to check your grades. Also, know that when I'm showing this today, I have changed all of the student data. So these are not real students that you're seeing. They're made up with my name and that kind of information. So let's go ahead and get started. You should be seeing my screen, and I am in a ParentVue account. And if you do not have your ParentVue account, talk to your student's building, and they can link your ParentVue account to you with all of your students. So you can see here at the top, I have 3 students. It's focused to this one, but if I click this little drop down arrow right here, you're going to see that I have 3 students. I have a student at Allison Middle School, at Northeast Magnet, and at Adams Elementary. And you will see the photos of each of your students right here in your real ParentVue once the student photos are uploaded. Okay, before we look at some of the features, I do want to talk a little bit about your account as a parent. Um, so on the right side where it says My Account, you can click that and see your data that you've uploaded into the system. I am not able to edit parent data with the way that I'm looking at this, but you as a parent, when you click My Account, can come in, and there's some things that you can edit straight from ParentVue. You don't have to go to the office to do that or to the school. You can do it here. So for example, I can edit this personal information right here in the middle of the screen. So I can change my employer, my language, any of that stuff right there. Also, I can check my email addresses and change my email addresses. This is pretty important. So I want to kind of point out again where I got that. I went to my account at the top of the screen. And then if you scroll a little bit down, you will see your email addresses. Now you can see that you can have up to 5 email addresses, or actually 6 email addresses in Synergy. I probably get emails a couple times a week from parents or from teachers saying that parents aren't receiving their emails, that things aren't coming through to parents correctly, and that sort of thing. So what happens a lot of time is maybe these emails get entered incorrectly, or you have an email that's no longer valid. So for example, you were at a job and you had one email, and then you moved and you forgot to change the email. So that's oftentimes what the problem is, and you can come here and kind of try to troubleshoot that a little bit. So this one that says primary email, that's the one that you entered when you signed up your student and entered your personal information. That's your primary email. Okay, these emails, email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those emails are emails that you've put in on ParentVue when you created your ParentVue account. So sometimes a parent will say, I'm really tired of getting 3 emails from you about the same thing. Well, this is the reason. You may have 3 emails in here. You can come in and take out 2 of the emails and just leave your 1 email if you want to. So this is probably, if I would say that there's one thing that we troubleshoot a lot about emails, it is or about ParentVue, it is these emails. And I love that now you can go in and you can edit your emails and fix them right here instead of having to call the office and figure out what was there. Just remember that this first one is the one that you entered originally. And when a teacher sends something to ParentVue through Synergy, so if they go into their communication feature and they send something to a parent through Synergy, they will send it to ParentVue and it will go to every one of these emails. So just remember that, okay? And you can come down and edit your phone numbers as well. And if we have documents for you to acknowledge, those acknowledge documents are here so that you can see them. And then your account access history. So it kind of shows you when you last logged in and that sort of thing. Okay. So again, all of that information is on my account. And once you have a ParentVue account, you can manage that information anytime you want to. Okay. All right. So let's go look at ParentVue a little bit for how it looks for for parents. And just know that student view. So your students have student view and it works very similarly in student view. They just can't edit some of the information that you can edit and they don't have some of the functions. Okay. So I'm going to go back to home. And home is where you come to when you first log in, and notice that it gives me an overview of all 3 of my students. So any current messages, like I just sent these messages today for this student, they're showing there. This first one is a district message saying that online registration is currently open. And these are messages that as a teacher I've sent to this particular student. And then there's a weekly attendance note or a monthly attendance note that comes out, and that will show there as well. In addition, over the past week, in this particular class, there's been for this particular student, there's been recent history as far as assignments go. So those recent assignments show there as well. So this is kind of an overview. These 2 students I haven't added a bunch for. That's my main class that I'm demoing. So, but if there was history here, there for each of these students, they would be showing as well. Okay, so that's just kind of a nice overview. These are all links. So if I wanted to click on this attendance note, I could click it and it would go to this attendance button here, which we'll look at in a second. All right. I can also, in recent history, if I want to go directly to that science project without having to go through gradebook, anything like that, I can click on that science project and it goes directly to that project. So it's a quick way to kind of navigate around to the most current things without having to dig around a lot. All right, let's just move right on down the column on the left, the menu. If I go to messages, these are messages for me for all of my students. So it shows that Eddie has these 3 messages. Liz has all of these messages these are all messages even from last year that I as a parent haven't read. I can click on them. I can open the message and read the message. Okay. These messages, again, remember, these messages are also being sent to my email. So as a parent, I can see it here, or I can see it in my email as well. Okay, and it shows that I have 34. If I would open one and read it, then the number will go down for that as well. Now, if your students are seeing this in student view, they're only going to see the messages that were sent to them. So they will only see, like Eddie will only see the ones for Eddie, and Liz will only see the ones for Liz. Okay. Next on the menu is our calendar. And they've done some updates to the calendar feature in here, and I really kind of like it. So you can have the choice to look at your calendar by month, week, or day. Okay. And I can come into classes and look at this. Now, I am focused to Eddie. So since I'm focused to Eddie, I see Eddie's classes. I could turn and focus to one of my other kids as well. If I only wanted to see the language arts class, I could take off these check marks and only see the language arts class. So you can filter to the classes that you want to see. I could also see assignment types. So if I only wanted to see performances, or say that the teacher had put in tests and I only wanted to look at the tests, I could see that to see when my tests are scheduled just by checking and unchecking these check marks. And I could look by assignment status if I wanted to. So if I only wanted to see assignments that were due, or only assignments that were missing, or only assignments that don't have a score yet. So if I wanted to see my missing assignments, I could just click that. I could uncheck these and click that, and it would show these 2 missing assignments that the teacher has entered as missing. That missing assignment does not mean, there are 2 kinds. So a scoreless assignment means that the assignment has been given to my student, but it doesn't have a score yet. Okay. A missing assignment means that it was due on Wednesday and the student didn't turn it in, so I marked it as missing in my grade book. And so when I marked it as missing in my grade book, it shows up here as a missing assignment. Okay. So that's what the difference in those terminology means. Now, if I don't want to look at this as a whole month, I could look at the current week. I could look at the current week, which in my database, I've rescheduled things and it's week 4. And so these are the assignments that were for this week. Or I can look at today, and I don't have anything scheduled for today. Okay, so that's how calendar works. It's easy to flip around and look at different things and see what's going on the calendar. Next, let's look at attendance. And this works the same for either my middle, elementary, or high students. It all works the same. I just have all the data in my middle school class, so that's why I'm showing mostly middle school. But now I can go look at my attendance. And the attendance looks really busy and confusing, but it's actually pretty helpful. If I just want to look by a month, I can click back to the months and look at the months. For example, I can see here in July, right here, that I had an unexcused absence on July 30th. Okay, so it shows me here that if it has a red check mark, it was an excused absent. If it has the yellow little time, it was tardy, unexcused, or if they were out for an activity, then it would have the green flag. So then I can come down and I can look at totals by my course. I personally don't love this by course right here because it shows the courses for the entire year. So this is beginning band, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. I don't love that, but I do love this by period. So I can come over here and see that my absent happened in those periods there. I can also filter up here. If I want to filter this down to where I don't see the entire year, I can come to this and say I only want to see Q1. And so now it's actually helpful because these are only my classes that show up in Q1. And I can see that there's a little red mark there. If I hover, it shows me that in language arts, my student has been present 73 days and absent 2 days. And 2 of those absences were unexcused. Okay, so it kind of lets you see your totals. You can also come down to this bottom little toggle button that says detail, and you can turn the detail on. And then when you scroll down, it shows all of your details about when they were actually absent. Okay, and this is showing by period. So when I said 2 days here, it was actually absent 2 periods, not 2 days. So I made that mistake. All right, so you have control. I can click on a class if I want to. I can click on that language arts class and it opens up and shows me my attendance. I've been 98% present. So it lets you do a lot of drilling around in the attendance and seeing different things. But from the basics of this, I would come over here and click the quarter so that I know which quarter I'm in, and it will show you your attendance. Okay. Any questions on attendance or calendar coming through?
There aren't any questions about specific attendance related to ParentVue, more so the protocol of how to handle that with remote learning. So the school will send that out. Yes. There is a question about, do parents, for one child and two parents, do they have separate ParentVue accounts looking at the same child, or is it one ParentVue account and I can look at the same child?
No, you each have separate ParentVue accounts. So you will get the same information. So when I'm a teacher and I'm sending to parents, it automatically defaults to send to both parents unless I, as the teacher, choose to only send to one. But yes, both parents would have separate accounts.
And they could inadvertently be on that account for their one child at the same time and not have any issues, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. And like if a message is sent directly to one parent and not the other parent won't see it. It only goes to whoever the teacher sends that to. Okay, class websites button. This is where teachers can create a class website in Synergy. I am not going to spend any of our time on class websites because with Teams, and how we're moving to Teams, I really don't think that many of our teachers are going to use class websites. But just so that you know that button is there for your students, they would be able to see announcements, homework, and classroom documents for each of their classes. And you're able to see that as well. You can flip through here and look at the different classes and the different announcements, homework or classroom documents. So some teachers may use that feature, but I kind of believe that since we're moving more towards Teams, that's where they will put that information more, is in their Teams or through communication with you. Okay. Parent conference. This is one that's not used a lot in middle school and high school. So I'm actually going to switch over to my elementary student to show you parent conference. So there is a way that that teachers can schedule parent conferences with parents online. They can do it two ways. They can schedule the conference for you and it will show right here. So if you send back the paper saying this is when you want your conference time and they schedule it for you, it would just show right here. But there's also the function where teachers can have parents schedule their own conferences. And so just be aware of that, especially if you have an elementary student, that that parents or teachers may send something, say, go to your ParentVue, click on conferences and sign up for a conference. And if they do that, you would come to your conference button and then you would come over to parent scheduled conferences, this little link right here, and click it. And what it does is it opens up the conference days. So right now I only set a conference date for Thursday 9/10, but if there was one Friday or there was one different days, it would have all of the days listed here, and it shows that the location is in my classroom. And so then I could come in and click the day that I want, and I could come in and choose the conference that I want. I've already chosen one, so I would have to unselect that one if I want to change it and select the one that I want. Okay, once I do that, once I select that, it changes for the teacher too. And then I show up on the teacher schedule for a conference at 8:40 on Thursday 9/10. Okay, I can actually click email schedule, and that will email me a reminder in my email of the schedule. But once I do that, it will show back up over here in my summary that I have a conference scheduled, and I can click on it at any time to see those details. Okay, so again, that's not used a lot in middle school and high school, but I don't know, you know, some of them probably will use it, but it is there for our teachers to use, and I want you to be aware that it's there. I'm going to skip course request, but know that course request is not available at a lot of our schools, but the button is showing there. And I'm going to come back to gradebook and report card in a second and go to school information. So the school information tab is kind of nice. It shows all of the information for the school. If I wanted to email the principal, I could click right here and email the principal. Okay, it's a link to their email, the school phone number, fax, and then the school's website is right here. So that's accessible in your ParentVue and in StudentVue as well. And then if I need to contact a teacher, I can scroll down and find that teacher and click to email them, or their classroom phone number is listed right here. Or the school phone number, I'm sorry, it's the school phone number, and then you'd have to ask to be changed to them. If you don't want to scroll down through the list, because especially in the high schools, like this one has at least 40, you can click in and search for the teacher's name right here, either by first name or last name, and it will bring back this information for you. Okay, so you can click on any of them to email them if you need to. The student information tab is the next one. And as a parent, you can edit information on this tab. So this is the information that's listed for your student in the district, but you can come up to edit information, and you can do this from your ParentVue. You can click edit information, and there are certain things you can change. You can't change, for example, I'm going to go back and show you this. So I can't change any of this information up here, because that is locked in. I'd have to go to my office if I needed to change some of that. But I can click edit information, and I could change to my preferred last name, preferred first name, correspondence language, any doctors, physicians, dentists, I can change that. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, it has all of your emergency contacts. So I can add in emergency contacts, or I can edit those contacts at any time. Just notice that there's a release to. So if that's not checked, and this friend of the family came to pick up my student, they would not be released to that person. So make sure if it's a person that you want to be able to pick up your child, that is checked and on there. So that's their emergency contacts, and you can come in and edit those and change those and add to those at any time. Okay. And then our special, oops, I'm going to cancel my changes there.
Hey, Lori.
Yeah.
There's a couple people that have said theirs doesn't look exactly the same. So like websites or something might be showing up. So they don't have all the options on the left side. So I didn't know if you've adjusted that, but we've had a couple questions come in. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh, sure. No, that's great. Yeah, your real ParentVue right now won't look exactly like this. We have some things turned off while we are fixing sections and getting grades ready and things like that. So it will not look like this right now. I've just turned on a lot of options so that I can show you what will be there at different times, but you won't see all of this right now in your own ParentVue. Thanks, Josh. I should have said that from the beginning. Are there any other questions before I move on that I need to address?
The only other one, and it might be related to what you just said, is should they be able to navigate through the calendar? And if so, where is the navigation to change to like September or change to October? And perhaps that's not switched on either. That was just connected to not seeing exactly everything
right
as well.
So calendar won't start until the first day of school. So calendar and attendance are the two that, and some of these things just won't show until the first day of school. But you will be able to navigate through the calendar. It's just right now you won't see anything. There's no way to navigate. So September 8th, that function should be back on. All right, and special ed, if you have a student that really receives interrelated services, some of their information will show here as far as that dates coming up to reeval, that kind of thing. And then enrollment. So I know a lot of you have done enrollment. I'm not going to go over how to do enrollment online in this class, but know that that button's there. If I would click there, which I'm not going to do, it'll take you to a login to do your enrollment. Okay, so those are the buttons. I do want to go back because I want to spend some time on gradebook and report card, because that is, after the beginning of the year when we're enrolling and we're making sure all of our information is correct, the thing that we're in ParentVue the most for is probably grades and keeping up on grades. And it is changing a lot this year with how things are working with standards reference grading. So I want to make sure that you see all of the views and how this looks. So I'm going to go to my gradebook. Okay. And when I go to my gradebook, so I'm in Eddie's gradebook. I could switch, and if I go to Millie, my elementary student, I see it by subjects, because in elementary, our report card goes by subjects. In middle and high, our report card goes by classes. So in elementary, if I go to my elementary gradebook, I'm going to see it by my subjects that are going to show up on my report card. But then if I go back to my middle school gradebook, and my high school gradebook is the same way, I'm going to see it by my classes. Okay. And I want to point out to you a little bit about what you might see this year, especially as a middle school and a high school teacher. So in elementary, we did standards reference grading last year. So our parents in elementary are used to not seeing A's and B's. They're used to seeing our grading scale of our 0 to 4, which is our standards reference grading scale. Okay. Our middle school, so our 6th graders are going to start using that same scale this year. They're going to start using the 0 to 4 scale, but report cards, because of and overall grades in classes in middle school, will still come out to be a B or an A or a C or whatever, because we need that for transcripts and GPAs. All right. Now, in addition, there are some middle schools that are going to do standards reference grading for 6 through 8. And there are some teachers that are going to use standards reference grading even if they are not in 6th grade. They will communicate with the parents, with parents, if they are doing a different grading type. Okay, but I want you to see how that looks like in the grade book. So if I come look at this class, this particular student, notice here that this one says that the student has a 2.5, and that's a B. Okay, that class is a class that's using standards reference grading, and that overall grade is based on that 0 to 4 grading scale. So that's what that means. If I come down here to the next class, notice that it's a percentage grade, 92%. That tells me that that class is not being graded by standards reference grading. That's a traditional class with a regular way that we're used to seeing grades. All right. So if you have a 6th grade student, you will see them all this way. If you have an elementary student, let me switch to my elementary and show you what that looks like. If you have an elementary student, you're not going to see an overall grade, because in elementary, we don't get an overall grade. All right. So in elementary, I would click on this grading period, and I would see my student's grade on their targets. And we'll come back and look at that in a minute. All right. But in some middle school and some high school students, you will see a mixture, and that's what you're looking at right there. Okay. All right. Now let's dig a little deeper into the gradebook. So I want to look at my language arts class. I'm going to click on language arts. And again, this is for Eddie, my middle school teacher. All right. And most likely it'll come to this screen first. And this shows me that my overall grade is a B and my student has a 2.5. Notice at the top, and this is new. So if you're like, oh, I've never seen this before, you're right. This is new this year. So there are 3 different views that you might see depending on what the teacher has in their grade book. If it's a high school teacher or a 7th and 8th grade teacher that is grading things like we always have, you will only see the assignment view. Okay, and this is the assignment view where it shows the assignment, and it would show that the student got a 30 out of 30 and raw score, and if there were any notes. Okay, so it would just show exactly like this first row, that the student scored a 30 out of 30 and so on. All right, now if your teacher is using standards, they're using the standards reference grading and the scales, then there's also a standards view. So I'm going to click that and show you what that looks like. So it's the same thing. It has the B with the 2.5, but it shows you the standards. So in this language arts class, I've graded some of my employability skills, which when you see employability skills, that's kind of our behavior and work habits. And these do not count in the overall grade. Behavior and work habits do not count in the overall grade. They just show as being assessed. Okay, so if I come in and I look at my language arts, I can see that on these different targets, so engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions with diverse partners, that student got a 2.5. All right. If I want to know how all of these, if you can see, they're all links. So if I want to know how that student, I'm like, how did my student get a 2.5? I can click on that link and it opens and it shows me that these are the 3 assignments that were assessed for that target. And my student has only been assessed on 1 and that student got a 2.5. All right. So you can click around and look at different ones and it kind of shows you that they're in the green range. If they come down to the 2, they're kind of getting close to the red range. But it lets you see the individual targets that are being assessed in that class. All right. And then there's a new view called course content view, and you will not see course content view unless a teacher uses some of the new gradebook content. And so I'm going to click on that to show you what it looks like. And some of our kids used it last year and loved it. So this is called course content, and it allows the teacher to put in all of their syllabus information up here, like their contact information. So if I click on that, it should show my contact information, my policies, my grading, how I grade, and a description of my class. So all of that course content information is there. It also lets you sort things a little bit differently. So I could turn on to where it only shows my missing assignments or only shows upcoming assignments, but it kind of gives you an overview of those right here as well. Okay, so there's 3 different views. Just remember that if your student is in a class that's just grading traditionally, you're going to use assignment view. Our traditional ones are always assignment view. If they're in a class that's using standards, you might use both assignment view and standards view. Okay, and course content view just gives you a little extra information. But you don't have to look at any of them. You can drill down pretty easily. So now I'm on assignment view. I could come in here and look at this analyzing claims. If I click on it, it's going to open up to the standards view for me. Okay. It's a lot, but once your teachers start getting some assignments in there and you can click around a little bit and see it helps. And you don't have to go back out of gradebook. I could come in then right here and click to one of my other classes. I could click to my social studies class and see the units here. These are clickable as well. So if I want to see that unit 1, I can click it and it opens up to show me the content for that unit 1. All right. let's look at the elementary gradebook very quickly. The high school gradebook will actually work the same as the middle school gradebook. The high school gradebook will work the same. It looks the same. It's most high school teachers will only be grading like this with the percentage, but there are a few that are going to start using the standards reference grading, and they will communicate with you if they are going to grade in that way. Okay, and then let's go look at my elementary gradebook. So remember, elementary and 6th grade are all standards reference grading. So you will see standards on the report cards, you will see them in the grade book, and you will see them in ParentVue. So this is my elementary student, and these are the subjects that will show up on the report card for my elementary students. If I need to email the PE teacher, I can just click there and email the PE teacher. I don't have to go back out and look for it. Okay, but I can come in and I'm going to click on my language arts. You have to click on the period, which is October. And I'm going to click on this one, and it shows exactly which targets I have graded, that I have assessed my student on. So it shows here, for example, on decoding unfamiliar word, my student has a 2.5. I can click that, and it will open and show me the assignments. So there were 3 assignments that my student did, and these are my students' scores on the assignments, and that's their overall grade. So if I was to print a report card right now, for this student, what I would see on that report card would be this target and that score. There won't be a language arts score in elementary. It's individual by the targets that the student is being assessed on. Okay, and if you don't want to have to click around, you can click expand all right here, and it will expand to show you all of the assignments on all of them. It gets a bit busy, but that's what it is. And it's the same thing in elementary, where I have an assignment view and I have a standards view. So I can click back and forth between my standards view and my assignment view, and then I can come in and click to different subjects that I want to look at. All right. Any questions on how the gradebook works or anything like that? Do you know?
No, sorry, I was waiting. Thank
That's
you for saying our names. I was always waiting for the others. I haven't gotten any questions that come through. Josh, have you seen any that I might have missed, though?
No, I think you clarified the Otis, and then of course, I think it could be said one more time, just the differences in grades and just the standards reference grading. You've done a good job on that, but maybe just reiterating that.
Okay.
Looks like a new one just came in. People are, the question was synergy, and so ParentVue is the, well, I'll let you answer that. The question was, what is synergy?
Okay, Synergy is the program that we use for our student information system. So that's just what it's called, Synergy. You'll notice down here at the bottom it says EduPoint. EduPoint is the company that owns Synergy. And so ParentVue is Synergy's program to help parents look at grades, look at attendance, that kind of thing. So it's just our grading system and our student information system. Okay.
All right, thank you, Lori. And another question that came in, and I think Tana's answering this, but I think as a previous teacher, you could talk about this, a standard time frame between students finishing tests and then it getting into the grade book. And then also we know that there's a grade book in teams. So just helping maybe parents navigate that.
Okay.
That would just explain that a little bit.
Sure. I don't think that there is a standard time frame between when students finish and the assignment and that information gets into gradebook. I know that at different schools and at different levels, like I know that teachers in elementary have to have grades posted every some grades in the grade book every 4 weeks. In middle school and high, I believe it's every 2 or 3, but they do like a DNF list and that kind of thing. So they tend to post a little more often. But I would check with your school to find out what their policy is about how often they're asking their teachers to post grades. So that is kind of a school by school thing or a level by level thing. But if you ask your school, they should be able to answer that specific question. And then I forget what else you asked me to answer. Oh, you asked me to talk a little bit more about the difference between the standards reference grading grades and the assignment grade. So let me go back to my middle school student because they have an example of both. So the place where standards reference grading is definitely going to be in your life right now is if you have an elementary student or a 6th grade student. So it's definitely those teachers are all using standards reference grading. And kind of the difference is that standards reference grading, instead of looking, so if I take a test, so say that I give a student a test and normally I would grade the test and the student gets an 80 out of 100, I would put an 80% in the grade book. But with standards reference grading, we don't look at the test as a whole. We look at the individual things on the test. So if this was a math test about fractions, I may look at, and maybe I have some fractions on there and I have some addition and some subtraction and some decimals or whatever. I'm going to look at the standards that I'm covering on that test, and I'm going to look at the problems that deal with fractions, and I'm going to assess the fraction targets separately from the addition targets and the subtraction targets. Because as we know, some students are really good at one thing and not so great at another. And this lets us look at those individual pieces of the test or of the project. It doesn't have to be a test, the project of anything. Look at those individual pieces and assess our students and say right where they are with each individual thing instead of an overall grade. Now, in middle school and high school, we still do calculate that into an overall grade because our middle school and high school people still need to have a GPA and they need to have a transcript and they need to have those grades on their transcript. So even though, for example, in this particular class right here, I've graded everything in this language arts class on standards. I never did an assignment grade. I graded them all on standards. It's still calculating up to be a B so that that student has a GPA and a grade on their transcript. Okay. The difference is in the second class, which is a traditional class, if the student got the 80% on the test, I gave them the 80% on the test. I didn't go in and grade each of those standards individually. So I know that's really confusing. There is a place on our website with all the standards reference grading information, and you can look there, or you can ask your student's teacher because their teachers are getting pretty proficient at using these and explaining kind of how that works, so that you can understand it a little bit better. Okay, but just know that your elementary is just going to have standards grades. And I could show you a report card. How about that? That might make it kind of nice.
Awesome idea, Lori.
Yeah, so here is a 6th grade report card. So this is a 6th grade report card. So this is the way the 6th grade report card looks like. This is that language arts class I was talking about. So here's my language arts class. My overall grade is a B in that class. All right. And then here are my standards that I worked on. So my work completion, I got a 3. My participation and engagement, I got a 2.5. So these grades, except for the behavior grades, these grades are calculating to give me that B. So that would look the same. Now, look at the second class. This is that beginning band class that was traditional. It doesn't have standards because that teacher graded by traditional grades. But if I keep going down, here's my PE class. I have an A in PE, and these are the individual targets that I graded. So I think that might make it make a little more sense. This is what your teachers are grading in the grade book. And those scores over here are calculating to give me that A. So that is a grade card that is using standards. I'll show you one that's not using standards. No standards. So this is a traditional, this looks exactly like the report cards that you've always seen. And even though this is a middle school report card, this is what your high school report cards look like as well. So your high schools and your seventh and eighth, so 7 through 12, even if they're using some standards in their classes, 7 through 12 will only have report cards that look like this. So all this has is the class, and it has their overall grade. So that's what a high school report card would look like, or a report card that that does not use standards. Okay. Let me see if I have an, I think I might have an elementary one. Let me look real quick. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to show that, but I think that it helps understand it a little bit if we can see it. Yeah, I do have a report card. Okay, so this is an elementary report card. So notice that in the elementary report card, it has the key up here. It's a little busier, but there's a lot of information on it. So let me, well, it won't let me scroll. Let me go look at my language arts. So right here, notice that there's no language arts grade, because we don't do that anymore. And if you have an elementary student, you're used to that, because we didn't do that last year in Otis either. But it has like regularly spelled 1- and 2-syllable words. That's the target that I did, and that's my student score on the target. Okay, so this is an elementary report card. If I keep scrolling down, it will have comments from all of my teachers down here as well. All right, so hopefully that helps. That might help a little bit, that we showed the report cards to kind of make that assignment, make those assignments make a little more sense. Any other questions that I need to answer?
I don't see any. I do see a thank you for explaining scales in such a way that's very understandable, and they were appreciative of that standard reference grading, the way you explained it in connection to the grading system, especially. So kudos.
Oh, good. Okay. And I just happened to glance down at the Q&A, and I see it says, will we know if the assignment is missing if the teacher hasn't graded it yet? It will not show a missing assignment unless the teacher goes in and puts in that it's missing. Okay, so if the teacher hasn't graded it, let me see if I've got one here, because I can show you what it does. Let me click on one and see, just by chance, if I have one. So no, I don't. But but see how I can just like hover over the title of the assignment. So if I was looking at this and I was in a traditional class where there were assignments, and I noticed that there wasn't a score for my kiddo, if I hover on it, it says not graded yet, or teacher has not graded it yet, something like that. So you know that it hasn't been graded. If the teacher it has graded, but the student was absent, or it was missing, or they didn't do it, or it was late, the student can put in those codes. I mean, the teacher can put in those codes that it was missing, it was absent, it was late, and it would show over here on the notes column as well that those things are missing. Okay. Other questions? Okay, let's look at the report card screen real quick. It's not used a lot, but it's kind of confusing, because in middle school and high school, so elementary, the scores that are here, they won't show here. You have to click to see the scores, because remember that it is standards reference grading. And so you only see standards. But in middle and high, a lot of these are the scores that have been posted. Now, pay really close attention to this because I think that this throws a lot of teachers as well and a lot of students and parents. So teachers don't have to post grades every time they enter grades. So sometimes the grade in the grade book for a middle or high school student is different than the grade if you come look at the report card. Okay, most teachers do post grades, you know, every 2 weeks or something like that, but some of them post a little more often. But if you notice a difference, that's why. So when, like, for example, when they're running a DNF list, all of the teachers will post the grades. So say that they run a DNF list on a Friday. All of the teachers will post a grade, and those are the most current grades, and that's what they run the DNF list off of. Okay, not off of the gradebook grade, but once they post, that's the official grade. So right now I'm looking at PRG1, which is this first quarter before the end of the quarter, and these are my currently posted grades. I could email a teacher directly from here as well, which is kind of nice. Okay. If we turn on, like last May or last April, May, when we had the schools kind of shut down and we needed to get report cards home, we turned on the ability to have a PDF report card, and that would be right up here. There would be a little mark that says download report card, and you'd be able to click it and download the report card so that you would have it. Okay, so this report card doesn't necessarily show you what the report card looks like, but it shows you what their grades are on report card, which, remember, could be a little bit different than grade book. So if you notice a difference, you might talk to the teacher and say, you know, I noticed that in the grade book they have an A, but on the report card they have a B. And the teacher would say, yeah, I just entered a bunch of grades. I'm getting ready to post tomorrow, and that'll change. So that's kind of how that works, okay? And then as they go through the year, you can look back at their PRGs, their October, you can look back and forth at their grade. How long after the teacher puts the work in does it take to actually, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm reading questions, but I'm so used to handling my own classes. So when the teacher puts in grades in their grade book, it's up to the teacher to post, and most teachers post once a week or twice or every 2 weeks when it's time to do DNF lists, but some post every time. It's kind of up to them, up to the teacher when they post. Okay, but if a teacher posts, it'll show instantly within minutes. Okay. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Because I've kind of gone through all of these now, but I want to be able to answer. Oh, one thing that I did want to point out down here in the bottom right-hand corner, English and Spanish, it doesn't translate everything to Spanish. It just translates, if I click it, it just translates like the titles. So it just translates the titles, but then like it doesn't translate any of the stuff that's our district specific things. Okay, so it does do a little bit of translation, but not much. Okay. Any other questions?
One of the last questions I see is how far back can we go for grades in ParentVue? Can I see previous years, previous semesters, previous 9 weeks only? How far back does it go?
I think you can only see the current year. Yeah, I think you can only see the current year right now. Make sure. Yeah, you can only see the current year, but if you need like previous report cards or anything like that, the office can print those out as well. They can get that information for you.
And are there any features that aren't available on the ParentVue app that are only available on the laptop version or browser version?
Okay, so that's a great thing. I didn't mention the app. There is an app, and it's available for Android and iPhones. And I love the app. It works great. I have not checked the app, but I think I heard that they updated it so that it includes class websites, but it used to not include class websites. So if that's not there, that would be the one thing that I would say it doesn't include. And other than that, I'm not really sure what all it includes. I do know that on the app, you can set up a few more like different things that you can't set up on the website. Like, for example, you can set up some notifications. So like if you want it to notify you when your student gets below a 70, you can set it up to notify you when your student gets below a 70. And, you know, I can get some information written up on how to use that app and maybe a video and get that posted to our website. Because I know that they just updated a bunch of the apps and I have not had a chance to look to see if there's any big changes yet. So I can get that done as well. Any other questions?
No, they said you address them all, and the other session starts in about 4 minutes, so that would
Okay.
give them time to stretch. If you do have future questions, guys, I'm going to put an email in there that goes to our technology department. That then, if there's specific questions to address, obviously reaching out to the schools about specific grading and things like that, protocol from their school would be another method to get any questions overlooked that maybe you think of later.
Perfect. Thank you. You guys have a great day.